Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the University of Manchester Middle East Centre's online webinar on the benefits and risks of digital transformation with Professor Nikolay Mehandjiev. A bit more about our speaker today. Dr. Mehandjiev is a Professor of Enterprise Information Systems and Director of the Data Visualisation Observatory at the Alliance Manchester Business School of the University of Manchester. He teaches and researches digital technology, big data, and their transforming role for the manufacturing and process industries. Dr. Mehandjiev has published more than 150 peer-reviewed research outputs and has edited 3 special issues of international journals. He has participated in 25 collaborative projects worth 57 million euros with a number of blue-chip companies and SMEs, including Airbus, SAP, MAN, BT, Atos, Philips, DHL, etc. Nikolay has held visiting appointments with SAP research labs in Germany, Tongji University in China, Atos Origins SAE in Spain, BT Research in the UK, and others. He has graduated 17 PhD students and has served as an international reviewer for the European Commission, Belgium, Poland, Russia, and Kazakhstan. So thank you very much for being here with us today, Professor Nikolay Mehandjiev. I'd just like to let our attendees know as well that if you have any questions during the presentation, please do not hesitate to put them in the questions box, as we'll be monitoring them and asking them during the course of the presentation. So please do not hesitate. And without further ado, Dr. Mehandjiev, it's over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction. Ideally, I would have rather been with you in the same room, but we're limited by circumstances now, so let's hope the technology doesn't let us down and we'll make the best out of the opportunity. So thank you very much for inviting me to present the topic of digital transformation and how it impacts different aspects of the organization, and how we can benefit from digital transformations and what are the risks from undertaking them. So I will start my presentation with covering different perspectives of digitalization, digital transformation, digital. There's a little bit of a conflation of terms in everyday usage there. I'll give you as an example to some of the points. I'll give the example of Industry 4.0 as a substantial type of digital transformation applied to the mostly manufacturing industry, but also some other industries are there affected by this vision. And then we talk a little bit about the formation, the big benefits of digitalization, which is to provide the data necessary for data analytics. So we'll talk about how we convert data into information and how we derive knowledge out of that information. And what does it mean to have a well-functioning organizational analytics? How can we integrate analytics in the fabric of our organization and make sure we get optimal results from all this data flying around? Then I'll finish my presentation with some illustration about what Alliance Manchester Business School is doing in terms of capability, in terms of data analytics, what are our capabilities in big data, and I'll tell a little bit about my favorite topic in the last couple of years, which is our new Data Visualisation Observatory. If you would like to reach me after this presentation, you can just reach me on Skype. I'm on LinkedIn as well under my name. One of the benefits of having strange names is that there are not many people in LinkedIn with the same name, so you shouldn't be a problem to find me. Please do request to link with me if you're interested and start open conversation with me. And then I also have just a placeholder of a website, which is at the bottom right corner of this. But of course, you can also email me. So I work in Alliance Manchester Business School, and I really prefer interactive presentations. It's very difficult to do interactive in this particular format and setup, but please do not keep your questions till the end. Please fire up, especially if the question is pertinent to the slide at hand. Please fire it up, and we'll do our best to answer within the course of this presentation. So let me just start. So you would tend to hear the words digitization and digitalization used interchangeably as the leader to digital transformation. So I try to put a little bit of clarity by going and trying to find some definitions about digitization. And the best explanation I found is the conversion from the old analog record playing, sound playing, to the CD audio and the CD-ROMs, and now, of course, going onwards to the streaming services on the internet. So we take an analog carrier of information, whether it is a book, or whether it is a gramophone record, and then we convert it into a digital format. Actually, this also covers organizational documents. When I started my office life in 95, 94, we were writing memos. We were communicating with each other, writing memos, and now everything is via email. So purchase orders and invoices have recently gone digital. So as a matter of choice, more and more businesses convert their information, the totality of their information, into a digital format. And that, of course, has affordances that allows us to do new and interesting things. This is, of course, attenuated by the proliferation of digital natives, which are people brought in a world where it is very natural to interact with each other via computer or via smartphone. And it is less natural to interact with each other face to face. And this, as you see, has been attenuated by the current global pandemic lockdown. Also, businesses, as a matter of choice, are putting all aspects of their operation online. And also most of the governments these days, they also try to put more and more their services online to facilitate voting online, to facilitate raising queries, and also my local council is aiming to provide most of their contact points with me through a digital portal. So all aspects of our lives, our interaction with others, our interaction with businesses, and our interaction with government, they move with an increasing pace, I should say, into the digital domain, into the digital world. As a result of that, of course, every day we create 2.5 quintillion bytes of data. And what is more interesting is 90% of the world's data today, which we have today, has been created in the last 2 years alone. So it's a little bit like it's exponential growth. Every year, the amount of data generated doubles. And the amazing thing is now we have space for that data. And the question which arises is, what do we do with this data? Can we use it to transform the way we do business? Can we use it to obtain and retain competitive advantage? So I then looked at digitalization. And the best definition I found is from the Gartner glossary on their website, which basically says it's the use of digital technologies to change a business model and to provide new revenue and value producing opportunities. It is the process of moving to a digital business. So in many ways, they're quite different concepts. Digitization is about taking a business document and converting it into digital format. Digitalization is taking a business process and a business model, a business strategy, and converting it so that it can benefit from digitization, from these digital documents. So this is what, when we look into digitalization or digital transformation, often known, we can think of it having external and internal perspectives. The external perspective is about how digitalization affects our relationship with other companies, our positioning on the marketplace. And here the best model I know explaining this transforming effect of digitalization is the McKinsey's digital reinvention model. So they divide the world into two parts: modest amount of change and extreme amount of change in the nature of supply and demand. So they look everything as like a very economic view. Everything is the balance of demand and supply. And then they say digitalization, new digital transformation can help us to embark on a modest change of the nature of supply and demand, and also in an extreme, radical change of the nature of supply and demand. And they provide a number of examples. I'm limited for time today, so I'll only give a few examples in some of these areas. So when we talk, so in terms of the modest area, let's start with the top half of the picture first. In terms of modest change in the nature of demand and supply, the first thing digital does is it undistorts demand. Previously, if you just look at the amount of information which was consumed, you would reckon that the whole of the British population is very much interested in pretty much everything. Why? Because they were buying Sunday newspapers, and of course Sunday newspapers will have everything in them. They'll have politics, they'll have economics, business, they'll have travel, they will have hobbies, and everyone will be buying the newspaper because it wasn't economically viable for this information to be packaged in according to the individual preferences and interests. And of course, with internet, we can now serve the long tail of demand. We can take that aggregate demand and we can split it down into people who are only interested in politics, into people who are only interested in their personal finance aspects, into people who are only interested in a specific hobby. And then you can create different channels of information, different services to serve all these different communities. And indeed, this is the way media is moving these days. We have increasingly fragmented media space with blogs and internet platform facilitating the serving of ever smaller number of customers in a specific niche interest area. So fishing, for example, any of the other kind of cricket. Well, cricket actually is a bad example. There's many people interested in cricket, depending on which part of the world you are in. So this is the first influence of digitalization, is it helps us to undistort demand to meet an ever-increasing number of different areas of demand, different channels of demand, which previously it wasn't economically viable to service in any other form and shape. On the other side, on the supply side, digital transformation helps us to uncover latent supply. Many of us would go on holidays, our homes would be empty, maybe we have a spare room. Maybe we would always wanted to be able to rent that spare room. We didn't think that's possible, we didn't think that is safe to do. And we have platforms like platforms like Booking.com and Airbnb, which help us to do exactly that. Helps us to uncover supply which was there, but it was never practical. It was never practical to use it in this way. But also even spare items at home which we no longer need. eBay and other online auction platforms allow us to find marketplaces for that. So eBay, in many ways, is operating in the middle segment here, which is it's making new markets and new marketplaces. On the bottom half of the picture, we have a different aspect of this digital transformation, where we reimagine complete business systems. So no one would have imagined, the record industry could not have imagined the world of Netflix, Spotify, and any of the other large-scale music distribution platforms. Also, it allows artists to bypass the record labels and to go directly in touch with their consumers, with people who want to listen to their music. And this is what is happening in terms of hyperscale platforms to link demand and supply, to create new value propositions, and to reimagine the business systems. So this is the external part. This is when we look at macro terms, if you wish, on the nature of demand and supply and the way digitalization can change it. What I want to cover on the next slide is the internal aspects of digitalization, the way a digital transformation affects the inside of the business. And here we have a core concept about the alignment between the business strategy, information systems strategy, and the organization strategy. And in my preferred conceptualization of the field, digital transformation is going into those three interlinked strategies and readjusting their balance to a new status quo, which is competitive, which is more effective, which is more efficient, where things are in close alignment with one another. So let me just give you an example of how digital transformation affects each one of these aspects and how they support one another in enacting such a digital transformation. So the first one is, in terms of business strategy, digital transformation allows us to create new customer platforms in the same way, in which Amazon has taken the simple concept of e-commerce store and converted it into a huge platform linking all aspects of our everyday consumption, starting from purchasing books, but going far beyond that. Now we don't only purchase books, we purchase everyday items. We even start to purchase groceries from Amazon. We also purchase books, and Amazon has created the Kindle as the hardware element of an e-book platform, which is also linked with the other aspects within the Amazon hyperscale platform. That helps with retention. It's not only the books and the purchasing of items, it goes into the music delivery, it goes into photographs storage, and it goes into the marketplace as well. So Amazon caters not only for customers, but also for suppliers on their platform. And that helps with the retention. Once you're a member of one of these hyperscale platforms, Apple has a similarly large scale platform where everything works beautifully together, everything is interlinked, and it is very, very difficult for you to leave them. So they're gaining competitive advantage, but making it very difficult for their customers to leave them for another provider. And this is very important because more and more, with the changing customer sentiment, with the changing technological advances, businesses move into this hyper competition environment where they're rushing to release new models of a smartphone every 6 months. They're rushing to, they're actually cannibalizing all the research and development work they have done in delivering that smartphone to market by starting to sell the new model, whilst the sales of the existing model are still very much buoyant. And the reason for that is because if they don't do it, their competitors will take market share from them by them releasing their own new markets. And we need digital design, we need digital marketing, we need digital planning of production in order to be able to do the new product development within the time scales which are demanded by the competition, by the hyper competitive environment all the businesses are in. And we also use, as we saw on the previous slide, digital transformation to enter new markets. Companies are now offering, companies which were traditionally offering products are now offering services based on these products, but also going beyond that. So we have, again, I'll skip with the example with Amazon. Amazon were simply at the beginning at the market of e-commerce, bookstore. Now they're, of course, in the market of groceries. They're going into the market of music distribution. They're into the markets of overall media distribution, and they're also selling SIM cards in certain parts of the world as well. And also they are one of the biggest providers of software as a service, as infrastructure as a service rather, in cloud services and platforms. So digital allows companies to reinvent themselves, to embark into new markets, to survive in hyper-competitive environments, and to create large-scale platforms which retain their customers within the businesses. And in order to do that, of course, you need the appropriate information systems, appropriate strategy to manage and maintain and to procure those information systems. And here we talk about big data analytics, which we'll talk more about in the remainder of this presentation. We talk about cloud computing, and we also talk about artificial intelligence and robotics on this side. And this combination of the new business strategies and new technologies inevitably change the way we organize our business. It inevitably results in changing the business processes. It results in new organizational structures which are based on, increasingly based on agency, on marketplace, on short-term contracting. And they also establish new ways of working. The latest example is, of course, now with the global pandemic lockdown, the teleworking increased tremendously, and many researchers and academics believe that it will never go back to the to pre-lockdown levels. people have discovered the benefits of remote working. They're making the most of it now, and they would increasingly be reluctant to go back and spend time commuting to work in crowded conditions whilst they can stay at home and work remotely. And the likely new normal is going to be that people would be going to work some of the days and they'll be working from home on other days, where this is possible. For some professions, of course, this is not possible. It was never possible, even during the lockdown. So let's move on and give the example of Industry 4.0, the way that impacts the business strategy, the way that impacts the information strategy and organizational strategy, the way it introduces changes. So here I would like us to start with the technologies. Here we have artificial intelligence and robotics as one of the key pillars for Industry 4.0. We have Internet of Things and cyber physical systems, where we see our manufacturing plant as flooded with small, tiny, cheap sensors which communicate the status of the factory and create a cyber physical system where we have a digital twin of the factory floor in silico in our computer, so we can make optimal decisions about the management of this factory. We talk about digital 3D printing, where we can create one-off products just based on CAD drawings, and we don't need to go into investing of special molds in order to create those. We can just print them as and when we need them, and that has tremendous impact on the supply chain, on the diversity and variety and the length of the supply chains as well. And we also talk about big data analytics, which takes the data captured by the new digital business processes and helps the business to run in a more efficient and optimal manner. So this is about the information strategy. I see there's a question. I'll endeavor to answer this at the end of this slide after I finish with the example of Industry 4.0. We then move to that enables, these new technologies enable a new business strategy, which is in the core of the vision of Industry 4.0. It is about reshoring operations. Many of the manufacturing operations were outsourced to areas of cheaper labor, which used to be the Far East, and now it's probably Africa, the African continent. And now the big industrialized economies are seeing Industry 4.0 as a chance to bring back production into the countries. Why? Because we have decreased demands of manual labor, which means that the price of manual labor is not so important, but we have increased demands for educated, highly educated labor to operate with the new technologies. And that, by and large, is easier found closer to home for the developed industrialized nations. We also see, companies also see Industry 4.0 as the chance to go into mass personalization, where you can order a pair of jeans you need, where you can order a pair of shoes with your own design logos on them, where you can order your car and customize it far beyond what is currently possible with customization. We also see it as a chance to create hyper-agile operations, where we can create new partnerships, new supply chains within weeks rather than months, as at present is a norm. And that allows us to be flexible and survive in hyper-competitive environment. Remember the hyper-competition aspects from the previous slide. And that also allows us to offer our products as services. For example, Rolls-Royce. Rolls-Royce is well known. A situation is actually changing recently. They've gone back into product-based contracts, but for the last 10, 15 years, Rolls-Royce have been operating as offering the power by the hour. They offer the service of flying. They don't sell the engines. They just offer the service produced by these engines, allowing companies to, airlines basically, to move their aircraft between the origin and destination point. And here I've put the picture of the aircraft, A380, to basically illustrate one of the projects we did with Airbus, which is about these ultra-flexible supply chains, including aspects of servitization, allowing us to bring a number of SMEs together to produce a system of significant value for Airbus, allowing them to reduce their coordination effort for their suppliers whilst preserving the chance to contact with SMEs, which are accepted to bring innovation within the manufacturing supply chain. On the organizational strategy, Industry 4.0 allows us to deliver new business processes, delivering self-organized manufacturing. This slide up there is just a placeholder about something I'll be discussing in great detail later on when we talk about the Data Visualization Observatory. It helps us to reimagine our supply chain relationships on a much more flexible, much more contract level basis. And indeed, one of my PhD students is also conducting research now, which investigates directly the impact which Internet of Things, 3D printing, big data analytics, and robotics have, which all these technology drivers for Industry 4.0, the impact they have on inter-organizational relationships, on the supply chain relationships between the marketplaces. And he demonstrates that aspects of 3D printing bring our supply chain relationships closer to the marketplace, whilst big data analytics shift the governance mode more to hierarchical and ownership mode of coordination between the companies. So this is another exciting area where digital transformation impacts all the aspects of companies' operation in the world. So let me, the questions are a bit small for me here, so excuse me, I'll have to lean forward to read them. So you're asking which KPIs are used to measure digital transformation, any KPIs? For me, in my understanding, KPIs are based on the business strategy. Digital transformation allows you to conduct business in new ways. What is for you the benefit of doing that? What is your company's strategy? Is it to capture new customer, new market share? Is it to service customers in a better way? Is it to decrease retention of the customers? That is an open question. That is up to the businesses themselves when they're deciding in collaboration with their stockholders, depending on their business strategy, depending on the nature of the business itself. And the other one is, again, how do you measure digitalization and digital transformation in the companies? I'm afraid this is a rather large topic, and it is for me, you'll be measuring individual components of that digital transformation. This presentation is endeavoring to introduce one way of measuring digital transformation, which is to look at your big data analytics capability and the maturity which your company is reaching. So actually, when we get to that point of my presentation, you would have a chance, there's a link there, and you would have a chance to self-assess your own company along that maturity level, and to also see for yourself through reflection and through the output of the framework about what it will take for you to move to the next level of maturity in this level. How do you balance cyber risk? This is an amazing topic. This is probably worth of a separate presentation, I'm afraid. The truth is that we're increasingly connected. We're increasingly connected, and there's always, and of course, the strength of the system is hidden in its weakest chain. And the biggest entry points into the business actually not from the technology hacking. It is from the employees not keeping to the password policy, coming up with very simple passwords, not following the rules and regulation. And some employees are basically bribed by the competition in order to open up things in the company. So increasingly the human aspect and the HR aspects are more and more important in the cyber world in terms of cybercrime and preventing access to the information assets for the company. And of course, the information assets become increasingly important. So we want to stop access to them. And companies are deploying increasingly sophisticated encryption methods, increasingly sophisticated firewalls. And it is a technology against other technology, against the hacking technology, and the companies which are successful in that are companies which consider all the aspects of security in terms of the human aspects, the organizational strategy, organizational processes aspects of security, as well as the technological excellence in their security policies. But by and large, the cloud computing helps in that aspect, because cloud providers are companies which are very well versed in keeping everything up to date, maintaining high levels of professionally enforced security and maintaining the policy and regulations. The privacy aspects are totally different aspects. And indeed, the topic of today's presentation was about the benefits and risks. And here I just want to take a couple of minutes to signify the main benefits, which is allowing us to do new things in new ways, in a more optimal manner, and the main risks, which is if we don't align our business strategy with the organizational strategy and with the AI strategy, we will be implementing technology in a very suboptimal manner, and our transformation will fail. This is probably the biggest risk. And of course, the other risk is the increasing threat of cybersecurity, the increasing threat on our privacy as well, which is maybe a different topic. And privacy not only in terms of my data being known, but also privacy in the way we conduct our political processes in the country as well. So there's some very interesting comments about the thank you very much for the appreciation, and there's very interesting comment about serving the Middle East, which I'll be happy to look at and discuss later on, perhaps offline. So let me move on. We are moving ahead with time. I would like to cover all the slides in this presentation, so treat that as an introduction, and now we'll move to the third part of this presentation, which helps us to think about all the data which has been generated as a result of this digital transformation. How can we use this data to bring us to the state where we have new information about the world, to bring us to a state where we know what is happening in our business and what is happening with our competitors. So in order to help us understand the difference between data and information and knowledge, I'm just going to use a very simple example. The first one is the data. When we go to supermarket, we capture the supermarket point of sale systems capture data about our purchase. Every single product we scan generates a record in the database, which is the till number, the date, the customer ID, and this specific product ID linked in one simple item transaction. And of course, the whole purchase with all the items in it is another level of data. But that's not information, that is just the raw data. The information is that the sales of fresh vegetables in our supermarket increased by 10%. This is already something which has meaning, it has a context, it has a unit of analysis, because we want to know, just by saying increased by 10%, we want to know, is it for the last week? Is it for the last year? Is it year to year? We want to know the context in which this is. And now information is useful for management decision making. Data itself, by itself, is not. Data converted into information is what feeds management decision making. And by consuming lots of data, by making a number of decisions with this data, managers in the organization are becoming knowledgeable about changing aspects in the business and about the way the business operates, about the competition and other aspects of their business. So in this specific case, we have the example of the knowledge we generate is that health foods are becoming popular with Generation X. And this is why the sales of vegetables have increased by 10%. So this is an example of how we take data, we make it convert it into information, and that produces knowledge. Knowledge is not easily captured in electronic form. It is mostly in the heads of the people who consume the knowledge. But when we talk about the knowledge, it's also useful for us to understand that we can talk about knowing what happened, knowing why it has happened, and knowing how to react based on this knowledge. Say one famous example about correlation between items purchased is knowledge derived from the transaction records, the type of example we had on the previous slide, that in principle, people who buy nappies also tend to buy beer. Now, in normal circumstances, I would be asking you, in normal circumstances, I will be asking you, how do we know, or why this is the case? Can you guess why people buy nappies also tend to buy beer? We'll shortcut this interesting part of our conversation now, and I'll just give you the answer. The people have done some surveys, they have thought about it, they've interviewed people buying nappies and beer, and the answer was very simple. Parents, childcare is expensive. It's much easier for new parents, especially, to buy the beer and drink it at home rather than go out to outside establishment. So now, when we know why this is happening, we can act on it. And we have a valuable know-how for our business, which is that promotions on nappies, we can place some promotions on nappies combined with full price beer just next to the packet of nappies. And this comes with experience, this comes with the procedure. And of course, once we understand why certain things are happening, that allows us to explain what is happening, but also to generate useful course of action, which is the know-how parts of our business. And very often, in converting information into knowledge, we use the tools provided by data analytics. And when we talk about data analytics within the organization, Gartner has come up with the concept of analytics value escalator, which is that different types of analytics are bringing increasingly valuable outputs for the business. So at the first stage, analytics answer know what questions, what happened. The second stage, which is diagnostic analytics, is explaining why did it happen. So this is and the next step is actually to predict what will happen in the future, which is covered by the predictive analytics. And then the know why is the final stage of this value generation escalator, which is the prescriptive analytics, helping us to decide within the business how to optimize our processes, how to optimize our policies and practices to make sure that certain things do happen within our business. And when we conduct analytics within our organization, we don't just need the tools for that. We actually need the data repository, which is common sense. Of course, we need to have the data available. We need to have the software tools for sure. But we also need to have the right analytics environment in our organization. We need to have an organizational environment that creates and sustains and rewards the use of analytics tools. And we need also the skilled workforce. We need people who know how to use analytics tools, who know how to analyze the data, and who know how to benefit from the insights generated by this analysis. And together with some of our global MBA students, so that is an interesting example. About 2 years ago, our global MBA students do something called Live Business Project. And I did a Live Business Project with 2 of those students, and we created an analytics maturity model based on working with a real company within UK. And after that, we have validated it with 2 other companies, but we'll have nothing better than validating it with your organization as well. So this analytics maturity model, maturity framework, is taking 6 different aspects of maturity in terms of analytics skills in the organization. We talk about maturity in terms of organization. We talk about maturity in terms of infrastructure for analytics and for IT. We talk about maturity in terms of the processes, the skills people, the governance rules, and on the actual technology used within the company. And at each one of these levels, we distinguish between 5 different levels of maturity. From initial level, where we have no awareness of analytics, we don't use it at all, to optimize level, where data in our company is trusted asset to the business, and the analytics is actually a strategy at the company level, and it's impacting the way the business positioned itself in the marketplace. This is all published in this paper, which is at the bottom of the slide. So you're very welcome to consult with it to understand a little bit better all the different aspects. But what I want to do now is to go deeper into the last aspect here, which is about data analytics technology, just to illustrate that within each one of these layers of maturity, we distinguish 2 sub-aspects, if you wish. One is the present state of things, which tells us how are the things working now, what do we have in place at this moment in time. And the other one is the management attitude, which is what is the management doing to move us to the next level up? What are their policies? What are their practices? And being able to position the company along those 12 dimensions allows us to get deep reflective insight into the status of our company. So it acts as a set of KPIs, if you wish, so answering some of your previous questions, but it also allows us how we can move forward. So here you can, with zoom in into how, let's say we're at committed stage now, and we would like to move to the focus stage of maturity. How do we do that? So at time T, we say what is currently being done and how the company goes about what they do. And we want to move to the next stage, which is where do we want to end up doing, the status which we would like to end up, say 3 months from now. And that will tell us effectively what do we need to start doing at management level to help move us from the current level to the next level of our maturity. So this is the real value of this framework. It's not only an analytics environment helping us to diagnose our company, but it's helping us improve our company and our operations. So if you would like to try that, try it for your organization. We would love nothing more than you working with our framework and telling us whether you think it could be improved in certain ways, whether it did work for you. So please go to this web link, bit.ly analytics_growth. Underscore you cannot see because of the hyperlink here, but we have analytics_growth. And if it doesn't work, just get in touch with me and I'll send you the link by email. So please go ahead. We're not charging for this service just yet. For the moment, please go ahead, tell us what you think about our diagnostic tool in terms of analytics maturity. So in the remaining, I would like to take another maybe 5 to 7 minutes from now, if I may, to tell you what are the capabilities of our business school in the way of analytics, data analytics and big data visualization. So the process started about 7 years ago when we took stock of all the academics working in the area related to big data. And we discovered that we actually have a pretty comprehensive coverage of many vertical areas where the big data is applied to, like fraud and manipulation detection, also sustainable transport. We have deep links with Transport for Greater Manchester, also manufacturing. Some of the projects I've described earlier, but also some additional ones, healthcare, and also marketing, using of big data for all these areas. We also had underlying expertise in analytics algorithms by virtue of our decision and cognitive sciences research center. We have a thriving master's program in business analytics. And we also have people expert and information management and integration. So we have effectively software engineers by trade, like myself, who ended up in the business school by historical circumstances, but that makes us quite unique within the business school world, in that we integrate both knowledge about how digital impacts companies, but also knowing the technologies behind digital. So I don't need to talk to the computer science departments. We have expert staff within amongst our ranks in these areas as well. And of course, with later level, we have policy researchers working in governance of big data and conducting meta-level research on that. So this is just a brief description of some of our collaborators. So we worked with IBM, with Airbus, with Transport for Greater Manchester, with BT Research. We actually have running projects at the moment with them. And we hosted the Euroscience Open Forum, where we had a number of panels and tracks focused on our expertise in big data analytics. And just to give an example of the research questions we're answering is, how large an area should we isolate in the case of COVID-19 resurgence? I promise not to talk about COVID, but it's very difficult to do that these days. So this is a very contemporary acute question. We had cities in the UK where we had resurgence of the virus, which had to be locked down, localized. When do you stop the lockdown? How far the boundary you put on the lockdown area to ensure that this reappearance of the virus doesn't cause another national lockdown. We have other questions like what would be the impact if we close one of our main thoroughfares in Manchester for traffic? How would it cope? How would Manchester Transport cope with this? Another research question we addressed within the big data activities is, are there indications that market manipulations by initial public offering underwriters have benefited the underwriters? And we found convincing evidence that indeed underwriters who are supposed to be acting in the interest of clients actually generate a lot more money from the trades they're placing within the process of underwriting the trades. And also the other question is, how can changing economic factors explain the rise in obesity? So that was an example of a health care related question. Some of these questions can be answered simply by a person, analytics tools, and a single computer. Others require the creation of large-scale digital twins and operating within a group, a team of people trying to work with data and to take decisions. So we obtained a significant grant from Research England, and we created a unique Data Visualization Observatory in the business school. This is as far as I'm aware, the only one of this specific type in Europe, where you have an immersive three-dimensional visualization of a large data set with very high resolutions. We have 144 megapixels of resolution, and when you step into this 7-meter wide room, it's a video wall which is 320 degrees arc. It doesn't completely close because we need to enter into the room. You are immersed in this world. What you see in front of you is a digital twin of Manchester, where we superimpose a large number of data sets onto a 3D representation of the center of Manchester. In this particular case, we have a wider, of course, now we have wider visualization covering the whole of the greater Manchester, and we can superimpose data about air quality, about traffic density, about prices of individual buildings, about crime statistics, data about, if you wish, even spread of the COVID-19 virus in the city. And that allows people to observe any possible correlations between some of this data, to discuss the best ways to optimize the layout of transportation in the city, or to do some crime scene investigations, for example. The other platform we've created is a supermarket, a virtual supermarket, that allows our digital marketing specialists to conduct a wide variety of fascinating research experiments under controlled circumstances, where they can vary different conditions, they can vary some advertising stimuli and signals, the layout of the products on the shelves, and they can observe the purchasing behavior of customers, which are taken in that lab. And if you're interested more, of course, when these slides are available, you'll be able to click on these links and see some of the videos we've created. And we have a simple website at the moment, and we're in the process of updating that, so more information about our different platforms will appear on this website. Another example, which I want to link back with what we said about Industry 4.0, is this extreme personalization example. So we have created this digital twin of a new manufacturing system. One of my PhD students created these results as part of their PhD, where it's not only the products are moved individually between the different processing machines on small robotic carts, but also the processing machines themselves move to the position where they are best, where they're most useful in the manufacturing line. Everything is flexible here, nothing is fixed. Everything is driven by, in the same way in which ants find food and signal the presence of this food to other ants in the nest. In the same way, bees find the next food source as well. So we have created that, and we're using the laboratory to visualize the feasibility of some of these operations, because at the moment it looks like an empty football pitch and everything works fine. But how would it work if we put it in real factory settings when we have unmovable machines, when we have electricity laid out in certain ways, where we have water and air ducts laid out in specific ways, and some of these layout elements will be fixed. How do we operate? How do we optimize our production? So this is one of our, this is our third research platform. We have recently created our fourth research platform, which is Immersive Visual Analytics. We take the large-scale data sets and we visualize them in three-dimensional interlinked charts, where the researcher exploring the data set can paint set of points within one chart, and you can see the way all the red points are where they are in the other chart. So you can investigate interdependencies between data set elements. You can visualize the data in new ways you couldn't do it before, and you can interlink three-dimensional charts, allowing you to visualize multi-dimensional data in a very intuitive manner. And what we've been doing during lockdown time is we have created a system where our researchers can parameterize the way their data should be displayed in the lab at home, and they're given a QR code. When they come to the visualization lab, we are scanning the QR code, and that allows us to just pull up the visualization and show it to the researchers. So we don't need to do expensive tailor-made programming for each and separate visualization, which used to be the case in advance. Now it's like self-service analytics for our academics. We also can support war room decision support environment within the visualization lab, where we can show a different number of real-time data sources on the same screen, and we can have decision makers discussing the best course of action. And of course, it could be distributed because we can have video links to other control rooms like that throughout the world. And you can also do, you can explore different architectural elements, you can design new buildings, you can do training of astronauts. So we have an example like that in the laboratory. If you're interested more in the facilities offered by the Data Visualization Observatory, as I said, I'm quite passionate about that. I'll be more than happy to have separate conversation with you. But now I see, this brings me to the end of this presentation. Please send me an email to this email address, or just connect with me on LinkedIn and open conversation there. I'll be more than happy to kind of get in touch with you. Now I see we have a number of questions, so perhaps there's still a bit more. Instead of going for all of them, perhaps I could be helped with the kind of most pertinent ones to answer in the limited time we have.
Absolutely, Professor Nikolay, thank you very much for that very insightful presentation. And we've got a couple of questions here for you. One of them is, what is the percentage of current companies falling in each of the status in the analytics framework? And can we have some of the examples as well?
Right, well, some of our, we have, as I said, we have done it with 3 different companies at the moment, or 4, I think it's 4 different companies at the moment. So I really cannot provide you with percentages on this front. And also some of the examples are confidential to the companies involved. But so when you get, so I really don't want to benchmark your organization against some of the organizations we've already covered. But when you analyze yourself, when we have more data, then I'll be more than happy to feedback this level of profiling and analysis with everyone who completed the framework. So we're just at the start of the journey now, I'm afraid. So we don't have the percentages you're seeking.
Perfect, fantastic. Thank you very much, Professor Nikolay. We have another one here. How do you balance cyber risk against the benefits of digital transformation?
Yes, thank you. This was an interesting question, and I think I already tried to answer some of that, which is to be mindful of the way technology interacts with people, organization, and the business strategy, not only in terms of benefits, but also in terms of cyber risks, and to make sure that you optimize all these aspects of security and cyber risk to work together in the best possible way.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Professor Nikolay. I think we have one more here. I think there's someone, I think Imad is asking, how can they arrange the SME business during the COVID-19 crisis in relation to digitalization?
Right. Let me just find this question to make sure that I've understood it properly. How can we? Which line is that? Can you point me to it?
Okay. I've just highlighted it. Yeah.
How we can arrange? Okay. COVID-19 crisis has impacted international supply chain in a very major and unforgiving way. In that certain things just stopped working, certain supply chains just stopped working because the SMEs especially, which are key part to that, simply did not have the people at one given moment in time to actually to react or to provide the goods and to ensure that, to make sure that the supply chain runs uninterrupted in an uninterrupted fashion. And I think it's very difficult to provide advice apart from keep your workforce secure, keep your workforce healthy to the best you can. Just make sure that you keep basic precautions about the virus at work, and fingers crossed that there's a vaccine coming soon. I guess would be my answer to this on this aspect. But in terms of looking for opportunities, in terms of allowing your employees to work remotely, do that wherever possible. I mean, most of your knowledge workers in the company don't need to be on premises. They could be working from home with the appropriate internet connection. For example, the government now in the UK is already allowing people to go to work, and where they have to do their work face to face. But our university is keeping out. Our university is still saying we are a knowledge-based organization. We are happy to work from home. We will be keeping our staff working from home, except certain labs like the visualization lab, which I saw a question about, which I want to answer, about the augmented reality equipment replacing the visualization lab. So the visualization lab is open, but it's basically me and one of my RAs going there to record new demonstrations, to record new videos. The rest of our staff still work at home because we're trying to stay safe for the benefit of the population at large. Now, let me answer this. There's another question, which is how can we make why do we need such an expensive facility? Why don't we just have one of these virtual reality goggles and be done with it? Well, okay, augmented reality, virtual reality is an individual tool. Virtual reality goggles. When I put something like that on me, first of all, the resolution is nowhere near as high as we have in the visualization lab. The best tools, maybe they have 4,000 points, they have 4,000 or maybe 16 megapixels. We have 144 megapixels across all the screens. So secondly, because we see the flow there, it's much less likely that we'll feel nauseous during the use of this facility. When I'm using one of these VR goggles, I become nauseous after 5 minutes using them. In the lab, I normally don't become nauseous. I just could use it with hours at the end. And the final point is that the lab allows you to experience virtual reality together in a group. So you can do group decisions about certain elements, design elements, architectural designs is a very good example. Even training, you can see what your trainee is doing and you can correct them if they're not doing things correct. So it is a different way of working. It is a much more group-based way of working compared to virtual reality, and it is a safer way of working, which doesn't cause so many psychological impacts in terms of nauseations. Is there another question I could answer quickly?
Absolutely. We've just got a quick one here. I think it's quite interesting as well, Professor Nikolay. How has digital transformation initiatives affected unemployment rates?
Right. It's always people are always worried that artificial intelligence will make everyone redundant, and this is in my observation. This is not the case. We have many jobs, many employments which don't exist anymore. In the UK, for example, we really don't have video rental store operators anymore. We don't have, by and large, we don't have the traditional typist as a profession for a number of years now. We don't have any people any photographic printers, any people who go where you can deliver your camera film and they will print some photographs for you. And still, UK had the lowest unemployment for hundreds of years, just a few years ago. Even after all these people were made redundant, even after all these digital transformation side effects. And the reason for that is very, very simple. Digital creates new employment opportunities faster than it destroys the old one. It will be interesting to see what the effect will be of self-driving vehicles, which is a big risk for everyone for taxi drivers, for delivery drivers. Whilst at the moment that sector of logistics sector and delivery sector is booming, when these vehicles move to self-driving mode, we might have some impact on unemployment there, but we still have to see that. Okay, hope that answers your question. Shall we finish, or is there another question I could answer?
Brilliant. Yeah, no, thank you very much, Professor Nikolay. There are a couple, but I'm just conscious of time as well, and I'm sure that people would happily reach out to you if they have any specific questions.
Yes, I do apologize. If I was not able to answer your question, feel free to reach out, and I'll be making sure I answer the question face to face. Thank you very much. Thank you again for the invitation and for your attention to this presentation. I hope it was useful for you, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Nikolay. Thank you for your time, and thank you for this very, very insightful presentation. So I'd like to wish all our attendees a very good evening. We really hope you enjoyed the session, and of course, take care of yourselves. Have a wonderful weekend, and we look forward to having you with us for a future webinar. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and do have a very good evening. Thanks again, Professor Nikolay, for your time and for your presentation. Thank you very much. Do take care.
Bye-bye.